What's going on, guys? So in front of me are two very cool yet slightly different trucks. One is our brand new 2023 GMC Sierra Denali 1500. This is a four-wheel drive truck and it is equipped with the all-new LZO 3-liter Duramax diesel engine. Next to it is a 2023 Chevy Silverado. Now this is an interesting package. It's a Z71 four-wheel drive truck, but it's also a Trail Boss, and this is in the LT trim. Both are equipped with the same 3-liter LZO Duramax diesel engines. Next to me, I have my father, who's actually spoken on several videos, specifically ones dealing with tractors as well as mowers and kind of comparing some of the equipment we have, mainly the Toro to the Skag. But I have him here next to me because I'm gonna honestly say he's a pretty big truck enthusiast, and he's had a lot of trucks. I think most recently, what was the last truck you had?
Ram 2500, 2017 model.
Yeah, it was a Cummins, right? Had the Cummins diesel. Prior to that, you had another Ram, but you've also had a ton of Chevys, right? And you, correct me, you've also had a GMC, if I remember.
That was a long time ago. If I did before the Ram, I had a Chevy 1500 four-wheel drive, and before that one, I had a 2013 Ram 1500 Longhorn.
Out of curiosity, when was the last time you had a Ford product, or at least a Ford truck?
That's been a while, probably 15, 20 years.
Has to have been longer than that. Shoot, as long as I've been alive, have you had a Ford truck?
Yes, I taught you to drive in a Ford Bronco.
Well, Bronco, but that's an SUV. But that's the last Ford truck I think you've, or at least Ford kind of truck you've had, isn't it?
I had one in high school, does that count?
Kind of. What was your favorite year, make and model of pickup truck?
1959 Chevrolet Fleetside 2500.
And you would have just been old enough to be able to drive that too, right?
I actually did drive one on one of the first farms I worked on. That's what we drove.
Okay, well, very cool. So trucks have come a long way, and you are no stranger to technology. He has a plug-in hybrid, he's got a Jeep, he's had pickup trucks and just about everything else out there. How long were you in the Air Force? 25 years, I think?
24 years.
24 years in the Air Force, so he served the country well, so he can drive whatever he wants, even if it's a hybrid. That said, though, what do you think about trucks and how far they've come along? Like, especially in the last 10 years or so, because the leap in technology in terms of what you get in pickup trucks is definitely probably the biggest leap it's ever been over the last 10 years. Would you agree?
I think the biggest thing that it seems like it to me is trucks are getting bigger. Physically, size and weight, they're getting bigger. I remember half-ton trucks where you had to put a bunch of weight in the back to get around on snow and ice. Now, pretty much four-wheel drive is a lot more common than it used to be, and the trucks just seem to be bigger. The tailgates are higher. You used to be able to reach into the back of a half-ton truck and get something out, but you can't anymore.
No, that's true.
Can't.
You know, in the case of this Denali, which sits relatively low for a modern four-wheel drive truck, it's not as difficult as some, but to be able to hop in the bed or be able to reach over the bed of this Trail Boss or even my F450 or most modern day pickup trucks is a chore. And to be able to reach anywhere near the center is almost unachievable. It's just not something that's practical because of how big these trucks have gotten. What would you say over the last, let's just say 20, 30 years has been the single biggest improvement overall to pickup trucks in your opinion?
A lot of people say that about trucks and cars. They say that the new ones aren't built as well as the old ones, but to me it's a different mindset. The cars and the trucks built today are built with the idea that the vehicle needs to sacrifice itself to save the occupants, and I can't disagree with that. I also can't disagree with the fact that they last a lot longer. Back in the older days, if you got 100,000 miles out of something, it was about used up.
Yep.
And now it's not unusual for people to get 300,000 or 400,000 miles out of a truck if you just change oil and do basic maintenance.
And I think the message behind there as well is the fact that even though trucks definitely last longer overall before major components start to fail. I remember, shoot, even back 20 years ago, where water pumps and alternators had like a 60,000 mile life expectancy before major components had to start being serviced. Timing belts, things like that, generally 60 to 75,000 miles. Now, you really don't have to worry about any of that stuff on these trucks for at least 150,000 miles.
Well, I think they've kind of gotten away from the timing belts for heavy duty vehicles. There used to be some And there are still some that have timing belts, but now they go about 100 to 120,000 miles is the recommended change interval on a timing belt. It used to be, in the ones that I've had, they were around 80,000 miles.
Okay.
They recommended changing the timing belts.
These trucks have timing belts. Odd, isn't it?
I would have expected a change, but
Yeah.
You got to admit that maybe the timing belt technology has changed as well as everything else. Maybe they're just more durable. I think I read somewhere that a serpentine belt now actually has a metal core, like a bandsaw blade type metal core that allows it to be flexible but virtually unbreakable.
All right, so let's walk around these trucks, take a closer look at them. These are two cousins, right? GM owns both Chevy and GMC. They're made very similarly, but at the same time, there's a lot of differences between the two. More so now than probably ever, because the interiors as well as the exteriors are dramatic shifts from the past. In the past, you could get a GMC and a Chevy, put them side by side, and if you were looking at them from the side, you really couldn't distinguish the two apart. The body panels were pretty much all the same. But now, you can look down the side of the GMC and the Chevy and you can see that they are dramatically different overall in terms of the side body panels, how the fronts look, how the backs look. They do share a lot of similarities, but they do share a lot of differences as well. Now, just right off the bat, Dad, what would you probably say is the better looking truck in your opinion?
To me, the better looking truck is the GMC for the following reason, that to me, it looks more like a truck. The Chevrolet looks more like something that's been hot rodded. I never have cared for a bulging hood. I like a flat, wide hood on a truck. I don't think the chrome versus the black makes a big difference, but I just think the GMC has a more stately stance to it, whereas the Chevrolet is aggressive. And just like with the tires, I like the tires on the GMC better than the Chevy, just because I'm not a big fan of real aggressive tread. I don't drive that way, and I like the looks of the GMC. It looks more refined.
Okay. Now, just one thing to note, the equal comparison to the GMC would have been the Chevy in the High Country trim, which is their highest luxury package to compare against Denali. The equal trim to the Chevy right here would have been the GMC and the AT4 trim. So we're kind of comparing two different levels of truck in terms of luxury amenities and trim. The Denali is certainly more of the luxury lineup, kind of that executive lineup of vehicle from GMC, whereas this specific truck from Chevy is more along that off-road inspired class of truck. This one's made to appeal to folks who are looking for that off-road rugged, take this thing almost anywhere and do almost anything with it truck, whereas this truck right here is going to be more refined for folks who might want to, do work one day and then the next day take their spouse out on a date. And I think they've accomplished that well. I think the two brands have done a really good job distinguishing themselves in the market. So if you do want that more aggressive, bolder look, the Chevy's going to deliver that, whereas the GMC is going to be more of that person who's going to replace a luxury SUV with a pickup truck type of thing. And in my opinion, even though the GMC, I agree, does look more traditional like a truck, the Chevy seems to look more bold. And I think that's kind of what you were saying too, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, now let's walk around the trucks a little bit and see a couple little cues on what they've done. Okay, from a stance perspective, you can probably see where the Chevy truck is sitting a bit higher than the GMC truck. It actually has a significantly taller stance, I think by like 2 inches versus the GMC, which makes it easier to get into the GMC because both of them have fixed running boards. And I would venture to say that the running boards on the GMC sit probably about 3 inches lower than the running boards on the Chevy.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate guess.
Okay, in terms of baby diesel engines, so if you're going to be doing extreme towing, anything that is, over 10, 15,000 pounds, you're definitely going to want to move up to a 3/4 ton or a 1 ton. But for light duty half-ton trucks, under 8,000 pounds, under 9,000 pounds worth of maximum towing, what do you think of these newer fuel efficient, kind of focused on fuel economy baby diesels? Because they both have that LZO, the newest generation of that 3-liter Duramax inline 6 diesel engine.
Well, I've never had a small diesel engine other than the one in my motorhome that's also a 3-liter Mercedes, but it's a V6. It is a diesel. It doesn't feel as torquey as these do, and I'm sure that's the fact. These are inline sixes, and that one's a V6. But I don't think that they were built for the same purpose. I think that Mercedes has pretty much tuned their V6 to the Sprinter chassis with the intentions of hauling cargo as opposed to towing very much.
Well, and then also with the Sprinter, you have a lot more mass you're moving around versus these pickup trucks, which are relatively light right now. They're both probably just a little over 5,000 pounds as they sit, whereas I think your Sprinter probably is closer to about 9,000, 10,000 pounds, I imagine.
Yeah, it's a little over 9.
So yeah, you got a lot more mass to get moving, and these are much lighter, especially over the back end, whereas on your Sprinter, it's a dually, and you got all that weight resting on your back axle. These, when there's nothing in the bed of these trucks, they're definitely on the lighter end of things. And to your point earlier, you know, if you put a lot of weight in the back of these trucks, you put something super heavy in the back or over it, it's probably you're gonna feel it whenever it comes time to take off. Now in terms of lighting, so lighting on the GMC is a little different. I don't know if you can tell, but if you actually look into that headlight assembly, you'll see that the top light is 2 projector style assemblies in each one of these headlight housings. And on the Chevy, you have a high beam, which is on the inner section of the lights, which is very common to most Chevys, but the outer section is a single projector. And I think you've even discovered, just with some low cost LEDs that you put on the van, that projector technology with LEDs has gotten so advanced that even tiny little projectors can broadcast a huge swath of light, very clean light, over a very wide, long, area of land.
Yep, I would agree. The LED technology, I think, has just blown away the old incandescent and the halogens.
Yep. Now, when it comes to truck ownership in general, again, you've owned a lot of Rams, you've owned a lot of Chevys, you haven't had too many Fords. You can be just fair and honest. What has been probably your go-to brand? If you had 3 almost equally equipped trucks, you had a Ram, you had a Chevy or GMC, and a Ford, all sitting next to each other, all in relatively high trims. Let's say the Ram is Laramie, say the Ford is a Lariat, and the GM is either a lower end Denali or maybe a Chevy LTZ. What truck, just from a brand perspective, would you typically kind of gravitate towards?
I used to, back in many years ago, I liked the looks of the Ford trucks. But if I were to go and be able to do whatever one I wanted today, just based on my recent years of experience, I really like the Rams.
Okay, what specifically about them?
I like the interior. I think there's a lot more thought went into the interior of the Ram, as far as the ergonomics of it and the comfort level. I like the feel of the Rams when I drive them.
Okay, from a mechanical drivetrain perspective, my opinion on this has kind of been, they've all gotten really dang reliable, all the trucks. They don't break down like they used to. They're definitely much harder to work on if you were going to try to work on them yourselves. And also, to your point a little earlier, even though trucks last longer technically nowadays, when they do have a failure, when they do have a problem, almost always you're going to need to take it to a dealer, because something electronic with a truck nowadays is not user serviceable as something mechanical was back in the day. Shoot, if your radio went out back in a mid-'80s model truck, you just ripped the radio out, threw a new radio in. If your radio goes out on one of these trucks, you've probably lost your air conditioning controls, your power seats, your power mirrors, your navigation, just about everything. So from a technology perspective, do you feel that the improvement in technology is worth the loss in user serviceability?
Well, candidly, as I've gotten older, comfort means more to me. I used to not hesitate at all to crawl under a truck and drop a transmission, or to do shocks or anything. I wasn't afraid to do it, but now I'm getting to where I really appreciate the technology. I think they're on the right track. The reliability seems to be better, and you can't argue with the comfort and the convenience of having mirrors and cameras all around the truck that literally watch your corners for you while you're parking or something. It's hard to deny the technology is very nice to have.
Yeah, and what's even more interesting is as you see more trucks come out with technology packages related to towing, specifically cameras that can be mounted to the trailer as well as around the truck and the trailer to see more. You know, there's a lot of folks who will probably leave in the comment of this video saying, if you can't back up a trailer, you have no reason to tow a trailer. You shouldn't be towing a trailer if you can't back it up. I totally disagree with that mentality, because there's a lot of folks who buy trucks and SUVs and they need to get a trailer. They need to get a U-Haul trailer. They maybe get a small boat. They need to get a utility trailer to do some work at their home themselves or to move something around themselves. And I believe that for the average person who has never towed a trailer before, all the technology you can get to help you do that more effectively and safely is a good thing. Whereas there's a lot of folks out there that, yes, tow trailers. You've towed trailers for how much of your life? Since birth almost?
Since I was about 14.
Yeah, so, and he worked on a farm, and the reality is when you're backing up trailers, you get better at it through practice. But if you're renting a trailer over the weekend, you may not have the opportunity to practice with it before the trailer has to go back. So, you know, backing up small trailers, there's RVers who have been doing it for a decade and they still don't feel comfortable backing up a trailer. So it's kind of one of those things that the more technology they can put in place to give you more peace of mind and more comfort and confidence whenever you are managing a load, a trailer, a cargo, anything with cameras, sensors, and other technology, I welcome it. I think it's a great thing. But how do you feel about that? From, you know, someone who's had some high trim vehicles and you're starting to see all the towing technology that's getting integrated into these trucks. How do you feel about that type of technology on these trucks?
I agree that there are a lot of people out there that need that technology. I guess I was a little spoiled growing up. I had the requirement. I had to learn to back up trailers. And I guess if you have viewers out there that feel like if you can't back a trailer, you shouldn't be driving one, well, I kind of can identify with where they're coming from, but you also can't deny that you've watched people back trailers that you wish they had some technology to help them, because I wish I had $1 for every time I had to back a trailer in for somebody simply because they couldn't do it.
Yeah, or you know, you're waiting in line at the boat ramp because the one person who's hogging the whole thing up doesn't know how to back their boat down into the water, and they're jackknifing it the whole time. And it may be worth a chuckle, but it's also time that you're not getting your boat, you know, launched in the water. And there's a lot of scenarios that happen like that. If it's at an RV park and somebody doesn't know how to back up and you're waiting there again for them to move so you can pull past them, it happens all the time. People pulling in or backing trailers into their driveways. And again, if there's technology that can help people who don't do it that often get better at it or feel more confident and do it more effectively in a much shorter period of time without damaging anything, that to me is a win, especially, you know, considering the fact that the more practice you get, the more you decide to tow, the less reliant you become on that technology, the less you want to use that technology. Like for me, I don't use any of the trailering cameras. The only one I use is to see when I'm under the coupler of my trailer. That's it. But as far as mounting cameras all around the trailer because I think I need them so I can see what's going on around me, I find that it stresses me out more because I'm used to backing up trailers traditional ways and just looking in my mirrors. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this specific segment on these two trucks. Basically a talk with my father, because we talk about cars and trucks all the time. We're really, really big into the automotive industry and vehicles and technology and all of that stuff. So we're going to move to the back of these trucks in the next video and have a really frank, candid conversation about tailgate technology.